Hello. Thank you so much for joining us at Twisted Threads. Today we're going to be talking about what? Picking your battles. Going to teach you how to fight. Reflections of Purpose. Hello, my name is Karen Sims, and you joined us here at Twisted Threads for our Reflections of Purpose. Today we want to talk a little bit on the topic of picking your battles. That's right, picking your battles. We're going to talk a little bit today about which battles we should be selecting and how to fight and how to fight fair. You know, I know we don't hear that too often about how to have a fair fight. But when we're thinking about the strategy behind picking which battles should be getting your energy, that's really the focus on what we want to say today. So everything that we disagree with doesn't mean that it needs to turn into a war. It doesn't need to be a battle. Perhaps, you know, we have a lot of arguments for relationships. We may have arguments between parents and children, whether toddler all the way to adult. There may be disagreements that we hear in our lives where it's like, okay, now's the time we're going to have this death match, and one of us is going to be the victor and the other one is going to be a what? Loser. Well, guess what? It doesn't even have to be that way for your everyday life. So many parents know, and I say it often when you think about the challenges that you have with your young children. So at toddlers, you had little problems. Well, when they get into high school and they get their driver's license, usually I had a former coworker that would say, little kids have little problems. Big kids, what do they have? Big problems. Well, when we're thinking about the problems that they have, it doesn't always mean that we need to show up for the battle. But if you're showing up for the battle, we want to talk through some strategy that you can kind of set for yourself, for you to analyze which battles are worthy for your energy to be fought, and then for you to get the bigger visionary picture of a battle versus a war. So when we say pick your battles, we got to think that usually if you are creating strategy, you don't just create strategy for battles, but you're creating strategy so that you can win the war. And sometimes in winning the war, that means you got to throw a battle. It means you got to throw the towel in and say, you know what, we're not going to fight this round at all. So it may be you fight with your kids about them picking up their clothes off the floor. Maybe it's them taking out the garbage in a timely manner. Maybe it's them respecting the curfew that you set for you. And we're talking all of this, but there are other ways where you got to pick battles. Maybe you've got a challenging person or a difficult person at the job, and you're trying to figure out how to get a positive outcome from your interactions with that person, but they're not here for it. Like, they're team petty. They don't want to conform in any way, shape, or form. And then you get stuck with the always carrying the, but we're going to do better banner. Well, the we're going to do better banner sometimes gets really heavy. And so when you're thinking about when to pull it out, when to have your normal Ray moment, as sometimes I call them, you got to go through what patterns are you seeing. When we focus on picking which battles, the first thing that you need to consider is you should only be fighting for the things that are truly important. So you got to also evaluate the consequence of the argument. Me having a healthy discussion with a colleague may not have a consequence that I'm really too much afraid of. But I remember having a conversation with my dad many years ago, and he's like, you know, I'm the father. And I remember when I would say something and you all would listen to what I would say. And I recall clearly my answer as well as he does too, because I reminded him of the fact that in times past, we didn't argue about the things that we were told because we probably couldn't handle the consequences. But after 21, 25, 29, yes, 30, we can handle the consequence, because odds are you're either going to tell me go to my room, which means I'm going back to my house, or you're going to put me in a corner, and I'd love some time to go rest somewhere. So these things that once were consequences may now seem like rewards and the icing on the cupcake. So a difference of perspective then allows us to see which battles we need to be taking. So If you're fighting for the things that are important, make sure that it's not just important to you, but that it's important to the overall goal. So if you're working with other people, especially in relationships that include romantic relationships, if you're in a marriage, well, you can't complain about everything. There's certain things, you probably shouldn't say, yeah, you look a little bit more big in that dress. It doesn't mean that it's not true. But if you say it, you have opened up a can of worms for a battle that you may never win and will never be over. So a lot of times we know, okay, not going to pick that battle. I'm not going to ask. But maybe if I approach it from a different standpoint. So that's an additional strategy. Hey, I want us all to have a healthier view as a family, and we've decided we're going to have some family fitness goals so that we can all work together, not just to call any one person out to say, yeah, you're looking a little thick right there, but to take the opportunity, one, for whoever's going to be the leader, for you to say, I'm going to lead our family in a positive way. And then it's no longer a battle. It's no longer a challenge because you've created it in a way where it's seeped in love, and you don't have to worry about carrying a pillow to a couch somewhere. That's for my brothers and my sisters, because I don't know how y'all work that out. Think about not just the consequences of the argument, but making a plan. Take a moment to calm down if you're in the heat of a battle and you're ready to go in for the kill. Look, I recall the lesson that I would always tell my sons when it was time for them to start practicing for football. And they would be so passionate and it'd be like so much aggression. And I would remind them what the goal was. So most of my boys played offensive and defensive roles within the football team, and they were on special teams and they were ready for it. So if you were going to be tackled, yeah, they were going to destroy that entire play. And I would remind them the goal is not to destroy the person, but just to end the play. And if you think of it as a strategy in your life, the goal is not to destroy the person as you pick these battles. It's just to end the play. And sometimes that means, okay, let me go and take this garbage out myself. Let me not buy this glass so that these kids don't break my good china, and then I'll be upset. Like, you can set your life up to minimize the battles that you'll need to endure. So going back to the word, keep it simple, stupid, KISS, KISS. Sometimes I drop off that last S because I don't really like calling anybody stupid. I think we all have a good level of intelligence. So I just keep it at the KISS. Keep it simple. And if you can't keep it simple, I'm reminded of my twin sister who her name is Kim, Kim. If you can't keep it simple, then keep it moving. Because if you are not ready to understand what the consequences of your actions might be, then perhaps you need to keep on moving past that battle, and that'll be a good way for you to know that's not one that I should select. Pause for the cause. Get yourself an opportunity to review your motivation for why the win is so important for you. Maybe when you're dealing with your kids, it's just to keep them safe. Maybe it's so that they wouldn't be going out and having bad behavior behind a wheel. But in a relationship with adults, you got to think a little bit further for what are you moving forward and what's your motivation? What are you really looking for them to change? Do you need more affection? Well, don't tell them, well, you never do anything. Why? Because they're not listening. Be reminded sometimes that you should not act immediately. Now, I'm not saying go to bed angry. I'm not saying be upset about things. But what I am saying is figure out what's the right time to talk about these things so that you don't come from a place of animosity, so that you don't come from a place of making accusatory accusations against somebody else that they're not even aware of. So first things first, you got to state your intentions, because you can't manage the expectations until you set them. So I'm usually a girl of high standards, and it's like I got a lot of rules. I got rules for my kids. I got rules for my employees. I got rules for everybody. But there's also rules for me too. So it's not just a one-way street. But I usually verbalize, hey, this is what I consider to be respect. This is what I consider to be disrespect. And whether we agree or not, I'm giving that information so that you know what my boundaries are. And then you're conscious and you can make a decision that you're okay with, to say, I'm going to respect the boundaries that she has, or I'm not studying that girl. I'm not doing anything that she says. Choose the right time to talk about things. Talk and don't yell when you're choosing your battles. Talk it through. Be sensible. Come from a place that you're not internalizing your emotions and thinking about, I'm about to just take this whole person out. Like, who sank my battleship? Don't go from that standpoint, because you don't want to take out your loved ones with friendly fire. Remember that sometimes a win is just agreeing to disagree. And that's okay to be like, we've got two different perspectives and we're on opposite ends of the spectrum, but I still love you. I still respect you. And make sure that you communicate that love and that respect. Now, look, if your battles involve people who you don't care about, these steps require more reflection, more thoughts in your process, because you can inadvertently be like, okay, well, I don't care anything about that person. And you automatically become queen and king of Team Petty because you didn't think through what it meant to pick your battles. So as we end this and we think about this installment of our Reflections of Purpose, remember that when you're picking your battles, you got to think about only fighting for the issues that are important to you, and define why these issues are important to you. Because odds are, as you continue to reflect on the things that are important to you, you'll realize that the happiness of your loved ones, the joy and peace within your home and within your inner being are much more valuable than an intrinsic win just to say, I won. Look, these are your Reflections of Purpose. This is Twisted Threads. Remember to like and share these videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss a thing. And as always, make it an amazing day.
Reflections of Purpose.